My eyes are still messed up from that cataract surgery.
Well, you look good.
Well, thank you. It's hard for me to focus.
I just had a professor you may know.
You had what?
A professor you may know.
Who's
Dr.
that?
Goff? Dr. Goff? Groff? He was the president of Rhone State.
You had Goff? Wow, what an honor.
Yeah, he likes my writing.
That guy is incredible.
Yeah,
He's
good.
a moral compass. He's a good leader and an excellent instructor. I miss him sorely.
Yeah, he gave me a 99 on my final paper, so I was happy.
Well, I'm glad to hear that he's teaching at Tennessee Tech.
No, he's at University of Cumberland's.
Oh, is that right? Cumberland University? Yeah.
Yeah,
I went there for a year.
University, yeah, out of Kentucky, University of Cumberland's. But he's living in Florida now.
I was wondering.
Yeah. He's a really nice guy. Very
and weather out of here.
Oh, me
He
too.
was the bright spot in my
I walked out
44
this
years of
morning.
teaching.
I'll tell
Sun
him
was
that.
shining,
I have one more
birds
class.
was chirping, and I was thinking, oh man, it sounds so much like spring, and it's 15 degrees outside.
I know. But you know what? I can function better when the sun's shining and when it's gloom and doom outside. I had a friend call up yesterday and said, I gotta run to Knoxville to Costco's. You wanna run and go out for lunch or something? I said, that sounds, I said, I'm tired of this gloom and doom. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, the sunshine has fallen.
Yes, it does.
I'm wondering if I should get out of this rocking chair and move into the couch where the back is a little sturdy. So I'm going to do that.
Hey, hold the ladder steady. How you doing, Chief? Just excited.
And I know.
I didn't know where you were. I saw your truck when I pulled that. Well, maybe you had gone out the back. Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. Have you had enough weather?
I'm ready for springtime.
Honey, I'm with you.
I'm ready for springtime.
I'm willing to fire up those mowers and cut grass. I may take that back,
Well, I'm not,
July, but
I'm not ready for that, but I'm ready.
Hey, Tony, we tied the sleds to our mower and took it all the way around the yard 10, 15, 20 times in the snow.
It was the Easter Bunny, and he was yelling, "Dear Santa, your season's over. It's time to
Get out of here.
Yeah, but I thought that was appropriate.
Congratulations, kid. Or
Congratulations.
sympathies, I mean,
I told her,
you know, you gotta work for her.
I told her congratulations and condolences.
Stephanie, I do think Mitch will be a person to continue what you started. I feel good about it.
He better be, right?
Well, it's not like you're not gonna be very far away. You can still look out that back window.
Hey, Albert, how you doing? Frozen. Hi, Heather. Dr. Maxwell and Mrs. Hale.
Yes, good morning.
How are you, Mr. Sassy?
Well, I was telling Stace that after my cataract surgery, my eyes are really bothering me. So I might have to take a break, but we'll see what happens. My eyes are swollen and it's hard for me to focus for long periods of time still. So
I understand. How are you, Stace?
In most people's dream, I was muted. I'm good. Hi.
Yeah.
Good morning, Teresa.
Morning.
You have good ears.
Kim, how are you doing this morning?
I know, that's quite a package.
Did you say Jim or Kim?
Well, either one. Hey, Becky, how you doing?
You're sharing your blessings?
This is the trial.
We've got another minute
I
before
know.
9 o'clock. So
And-
we'll,
And Anita, you know, your faces are, on my screen, your faces are almost black because of the window in the background. Did you all know that?
Very witness protection, Robbie.
Those are great masks.
Everybody is.
Oh. Now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me
I
now?
think Albert is beautiful. Look at that. He hasn't moved an inch in 10 minutes.
you look beautiful. You haven't moved an inch.
I didn't even know I was on it.
Oh.
Am I unmuted? We didn't time to speak.
All right, Albert, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order, this work session and retreat. If everyone would please rise for a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. And next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. I've got a motion and a second. We'll do roll call vote. Mr. Brock?
Yes.
Ms. Hale?
Yes.
Mr. Safety?
Yes.
Ms. Cargy?
Yes.
Ms. Boston?
Yes.
Ms. Hamby? Oh, I'm losing my screen.
It's the agenda.
Can't hear you, Ms. Hamby. Still can't hear you. Sorry. I'm assuming you said yes? Okay, thank you. Mr. King?
Yes.
Okay. And I've lost everybody else. Let's see, is that everybody?
All I see is
Okay, all right. Ms. Paris?
She's not attending either one
Okay.
this week or next week.
Is that everybody? I didn't bring my list. Okay, and I've lost everybody. I was checking everybody off on the screen, and all of a sudden my screen, I lost everybody. Okay, anyway, we will move on with the meeting. Next item on the agenda is the welcome and overview from Dr. Maxwell, so I'll turn it all over to her.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Inman, and I want to thank all of you that are in attendance this morning for giving up your time this morning for this board retreat. I'm going to give just a brief overview of our agenda. This is only part one of the part of your annual board retreat for your Board of Distinction. And so this morning, part one is from 9 until noon. And for part one today, we will begin with a small spotlight, spotlighting 6 of our schools. And then Ms. Marlene Holton will present an overview of the Special Education Department and some updates there. Then we will transition to Dr. Farley, who will share information regarding pre-K through 8th grade. Then Ms. Harris will present an overview of the departments that she works with. We will have a maintenance and technology overview. At 10:20, we will take a short break. Then we will resume at 10:30. And when we come back at 10:30, the remaining section of today's retreat will be our focus on COVID-19, our response to the pandemic. During this time, Nurse Supervisor Marsha Paulson will provide a breakdown of the data by month of the number of cases that she has logged for both students and staff, as well as a number of student and staff quarantines. So she has prepared some very interesting graphs for us to view with this data breakdown. Then Ms. Kim Bray, our Human Resources Officer, will discuss data related to FFCRA from the very beginning of the school year up until this point, along with information regarding our COVID-19 leave that you approved at the beginning of January. Mr. Scott Hull, our lead Safe Schools counselor, will end our session today providing us with an overview of the effects of COVID-19, the effects that the pandemic has had on mental health and supports that we can utilize to work with students, staff, families during this difficult time. On the agenda that Ms. James posted, you will notice in parentheses, I have listed strategic plan goals in the areas that these presentations focus on. So those will be related to the topics that are discussed today. The agenda, the bulleted points are not all inclusive. These are just some of the highlights of the many things that they will speak to. So I'm going to continue now. As we all know, this has truly been a year like none other. However, with all the challenges that we have been faced with, it has been a time to turn those challenges into opportunities. And that's what our schools have done. Just an example, I mean, this morning we are utilizing Zoom and technology like our students have utilized all year in some form or fashion, and that our teachers have provided instruction with. So we may have a few glitches along the way, so if you'll forgive us and just be patient. But the spotlight that you're going to see this morning for the first few minutes highlights 6 of our schools and the things that they have done to bring a sense of normalcy to our families and our students during this pandemic. So welcome to part 1 of our spotlight. First, we have a slide reflecting what Stone Elementary has done to encompass families during the pandemic. They have shared the importance of staying connected with families. The teachers at Stone Elementary have been very engaged with communicating with families through various means of technology. They have used Dojo and remind messages to inform families of events and things that are taking place. And a quote from the information that was sent to me said, "A laser-like focus on relationships with students and communicating with parents has been a beacon of light and hope this year." Our next slide reflects Martin Elementary. Martin Elementary received a grant from Delta Dental They entered a contest, if you will, called Water's Cool at School, focusing on the importance of water while during the pandemic, you know, in certain levels that we were in, water fountains were closed and we resorted to other methods of distribution to mitigate the spread of germs. So if you will join me, we're going to watch the clip that they submitted and won a supply of water from.
Excuse me, what are you drinking? Soda? Water can improve your mood and memory. Water keeps your mouth clean. Water dilutes acids in your mouth that are harmful to your tooth enamel. Water with fluoride strengthens your teeth. Water is calorie-free. Water hydrates skin. Your body uses water in all its cells, organs, and tissues to regulate temperature and maintain other bodily functions. Water helps digestion. Water boosts energy. Water school at our school.
So you can see from their enthusiasm that they enjoy doing that. So we'll have to ask them for their autographs when we see them. So the next slide that we have, this is how the Phoenix School has addressed the importance of staying connected with families during the pandemic. COVID has placed many challenges on students, parents, teachers, and school support staff. All stakeholders have felt the impact, whether through economic hardship, lack of daily normalcy, loss of loved ones, and learning loss, only naming a few hurdles. At Phoenix, we rely on relationships with our students to help and support them. The pandemic has burdened our abilities to develop and sustain relationships with students and families. We have relied heavily on the Phoenix campus Uber to deliver needed supplies, food, and academic support. With 34% of our population requesting paper packets, teachers and support staff have logged 1,768 miles from March 19th through January 28th of this year to reach out and serve the needs of families. This valuable resource has more than been an asset. It is a necessity in our building. So you might see them on the road at any moment. Our next is from Brown Elementary. And Brown Elementary has utilized podcasting to help connect students with staff and to stay in touch with families. So if you will join me, we will listen to just a few moments of a podcast that Mr. Richard Leahy has recorded with a student.
Welcome to the 4th episode of the Frank P. Brown Elementary podcast. My name is Mr. Leahy, and today we are going to be talking with a 3rd grader whose name is David. And David and I are going to sit down and talk about something I am totally unfamiliar with, uncharted waters, not really great at this at all, sports. So David is going to talk about sports, his favorite sports pastime, football, and he's going to try to convince me about maybe liking sports in the end. I think he does a really good job of doing that. So hopefully you stick around and enjoy this episode. At the very end, we'll also talk about our February news for the month of February. Now, if you're just joining us for the first time, well, welcome aboard. The idea behind this podcast is just to provide a way for students to get a chance to learn about other people who go to their school. And by doing this, I hope to just kind of build a sense of community where people aren't strangers, but familiar faces. So now, without further ado, let's get to know a student now. All right, I'm here with David Passon. Am I saying that right, David? David Passon. So David, how are you feeling today, man? Feeling great. So you're coming in on a 2-hour snow delay to talk to me for our podcast today. What time did you get up this morning?
I got around 7:13 the clock show.
So you can see the enthusiasm that goes into these podcasts. I love it. For our next school spotlight, CCHS, you know, although there have been many restrictions placed on athletic events, and obviously due to the safety of everyone involved, live streaming has become a very popular thing to let those at home enjoy some play-by-play action. This is a clip from one of the basketball competitions, and there isn't sound. You know, when I first saw this, I think I was expecting to hear Bob Kessling narrate for me, you know, what was taking place on the court, or Steve Randall, or some, you know, some local celebrity. But this is an example of what schools have done to let those folks at home have a piece of the action without being able to be there due to, you know, restrictions that we're operating under. But not myself, but but you know, it's very ingenious how creative schools have gotten. Our last spotlight this morning is from North Cumberland Elementary, and this is Dr. Jennifer Magnuson highlighting their 21st Century Learning Program, which they have before and after school, and this is how they conducted their family meeting. Although families could not attend in person, this went to the families for participation. So let's listen in to Dr. Magnuson for just a moment.
Okay, we are about to begin our STEAM Club Family Meeting number 1 for the 2020-21 school year. This is Dr. Magnuson. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. I wish we could do this in person, and maybe it won't be too much longer before we can do that. I just have a few tidbits of information to share with you today about our STEAM Club. Many of you may be aware of these things. Families whose children are joining on this year. We're going to go through a couple of things here together. So just some general information. This is a 21st Century Community Learning Center program. It is a grant. It is federally funded, and it's just a way to support community learning centers across our country. Our goal is to provide students with opportunities for academic enrichment, offer family support, and this is also done during the non-school hours. So we do have a before school and an after school program. Another goal is that we just offer many services or programs and activities for our students who are involved in the STEAM Club, just to reinforce and complement their regular program here that they have at school. We offer remedial support, so just assistance in work that they do here at school and a little extra help. Academic support, we look at math and science, art and music, we tutor, we have recreational activities. In other words, they have some physical activities.
So as you can see, our schools have been very engaged with
we're about to begin.
The students and families, and you know, my hat's off to all of them for the efforts. Next Saturday, we will spotlight the other 6 schools and share some other creative ways that they are working with their students and families, and so I hope you enjoyed that section. So what we're going to do now, we're going to move into our special education spotlight with our special education supervisor, Mrs. Marlene Holton, and she's going to share many highlights from her department. So Mrs. Holton, I will turn it over to you.
Good morning. I have been so blessed to be able to be a part of the special education department this year. All the teachers and all the stakeholders have been so supportive. So I really appreciate that. So I wanted to start with some pictures. TEIS staff have been delivering food for students. As you can see, students are playing dress up in the classroom. And so this is just a couple cute pictures. Here's me doing a classroom visit. Here's the kids doing some hands-on activities to increase their academic knowledge. This year, I think it's really important that we get feedback from all the stakeholders throughout the process. So I asked some parents to give us some feedback about the services we've been providing. One parent said, I've always felt like I was listened to, and they have been very compassionate with any concerns I've ever had. I feel safe and secure sending my son to school. Ms. Holton has went above and beyond helping with any needs that I have addressed about my son. Another parent said, everyone has been so supportive. This is a clear testament to the care and concern of each and every person involved, from you to the teachers and aides, as well as the bus drivers. Thank you and the staff for helping my son to move from hating school and feeling stupid to looking forward to going to school and participating in cross country. And so, that's why we do the work we do every day. And so sometimes it's just nice to hear that feedback. Currently, we serve students from 18 months to 22 years of age in Cumberland County Schools. We have 937 students on IEPs, and we have 176 students on 504s. Students are able to receive academic, pre-vocational, social, emotional, adaptive, and transitional services to address deficit areas. They are also able to receive related services such as OT, PT, and speech to address deficit areas. Teachers have gone above and beyond this year to serve students in both traditional and virtual learning settings. Support staff personnel assist our students and are invaluable in providing appropriate services for our students with disabilities. Evaluation teams have tested students daily. Our TEIS, we also have a 3-year-old inclusive preschool, and in those, we're able to serve students prior to them being school age. The TEIS is 18 months till their 3rd birthday. And then at their 3rd birthday, we do offer an inclusive 3-year-old program at Homestead. And this is a great opportunity for those students to be with typical peers and to be able to prepare them to successfully transition to a school setting. In both of these programs, that we offer OT, PT, and speech to all students that have deficit areas. We have a homebound gifted education in our behavior staff here at the district level. Homebound teachers have developed individual plans for families. We've even provided hotspots if needed for students that are not able to come in the building. Gifted education has continued to work on identifying and meeting the needs of the students. Behavior support staff have experienced success in implementing strategies and behavior plans for students in all schools. One of our community outreach activities that we do every year is Child Find. And in this, we want to share with the community the services that we offer. And so we do a brochure, and it talks about who they can contact, what's the process, what's the cost, and and their rights and responsibilities. So this is a great time for us to show the community the supports that are in place for their children. And this really advocates for early intervention for our students. We know that the earlier we're able to provide intervention, the more successful they'll be in the long term. So this is a great thing that we do. Here are some agencies in the community that we highlight for the parent if they need additional services. This year with COVID, the ARC was not allowed to do Special Olympics as normal. And so what we did was we modified this Special Olympics. We wanted all of those students to feel special just like they do on those on that typical day. And so what we did was we went to different schools in the county and we presented students with ribbons and medals, and everybody got a t-shirt. And so this was a great opportunity to make these students feel special and to also highlight the work that the ARC does in the community for us. Here's at the Phoenix School and at Stone Elementary. As you can see, we've tried to follow safety protocols during this event. I am so sorry. Here's at Stone Memorial High School and another at Stone Elementary. Here's some more parent feedback. Like I said, you know, it's always important to hear, you know, what their perspective is. One parent said our first year experience resulted in seeing our child bloom with self-confidence, social skills gained, and a little girl who could not wait to go to school every day. She also stated, Marlene has a true heart for all children and our special education children. Marlene goes the extra mile with our kiddos. They've proven time and time again that they fully trust and respect our goals and hopes for our daughter. And, you know, we want all parents to feel supported in this process. It's a hard thing for parents to go through, to have students with disabilities, and we want to make sure that they feel supported in all aspects of their education. Here's a parent that's child went to Baby Bird's learning program, and she just talked about how it allowed her daughter to make such quicker advances in her delayed milestones, and that she would not have been able to make the progress she did if she was not able to attend that program. Next, I just have some pictures again of students throughout the schools doing hands-on learning and, you know, putting those academic activities into place. We also have a work-based learning in the community. These students go to job sites every day. They help out in the cafeteria at schools. They also help at different locations throughout the community. This is a great resource for our students as they transition into adulthood. I also wanted to get some teacher feedback. One teacher said, Ms. Holton is proactive and sought input from the special education staff. Her door is always open and she listens to our concerns. Her ability to remain unflushed during difficult situations speaks volumes. She offers viable solutions to problems and encouraging words to those who need it. You know, and that's one thing that coming into this position is that I wanted to be a servant leader, and I wanted all stakeholders to feel that I listen and encouraged and want to support them. Another teacher said she leads with integrity, respect, and innovative, organized ideas. She exudes confidence in us as a team and reassures us that she is there for us whenever we need her. Marlene communicates well and frequently. I also got some principal feedback. It said she is willing to support in all areas, including SPED 504, RTI behavior concerns, and anything that I can manage to throw at her. I love knowing that I can call or text her and she will be there with advice or guidance to ensure that we do what is best for students. She is a passionate leader who strives to keep the needs of children of Cumberland County at the core of her decisions while supporting principals and teachers in the process. Ms. Holton believes in educating the whole child. She is a boots-on-the-ground supervisor. Ms. Holton is not afraid to try out-of-the-box strategies if they benefit a student to be successful. One thing that is implemented throughout the county is school-wide positive behavior. And what this is a multi-tiered framework that is put into place to establish social culture and behavior supports needed to improve outcomes for all students. So it's similar to the RTI model where there's 3 tiers. Tier 1 is delivered to all students and emphasize teaching pro-social skills and behavior expectations. This works for about 80% of the students or more. But sometimes students need a little more support or interventions, and then we would move to the tier 2 level. And in this becomes a little more individualized. And so this is for about 5 to 15% of the students that need this support. And some ways the schools do this is through self-management, check-in, check-out systems, small groups, social skills instruction. And that's for students that just need a little more intervention. And then we move to our tier 3. And this is more intensive and individualized. And so, we've got to teach replacement behaviors to these students. We can't just, they have a behavior and then us have a consequence. And so this tier is all about replacement behavior, teaching them the appropriate skills that need to be done at school. Sometimes it includes safety routines. It does include data collection because we want to know if the interventions we've put into place are working or not, or if they need to be changed. And so this is a great way for us to look at behavior as a whole, and then also for individual students that need it. For all special education teachers and case managers, this is a huge brag moment. Each year we have self-monitoring, and the state reviews our files to see if we are compliant. And all files were compliant, and our monitoring was closed, which was a fantastic testament of how hard our teachers work every day. APR determination. So we were found to be meets requirements in this area as well. As you can see, the total max score was an 81, and we had a 79.42. So everybody is doing a great job in our department, and we're just wanting to improve on a daily basis and continue to improve. Each month and each year, we have deadlines that have to be met and certain annual requirements from IDEA and our state and local government. And so here is a list of some of those requirements that we work on throughout the year. And then also, the IDEA director or director of special education have a monthly checklist. So there's certain things that we need to make sure that we're in compliance with. So, the day-to-day, the joy of the children is our main focus, but we do have to remember, that we do have to stay in compliance. We do have to follow all the rules and procedures that the state and the federal government put out for us. But, our main goal and focus is to help students, support teachers, and support families. And I'm just so thankful to be able to be a part of that in Cumberland County. So that's it for my presentation. But if anybody has any questions about the special education department, I would be more than willing to answer those.
Okay, Mrs. Holton, thank you so very much. Mrs. Marlene Holton is also our Supervisor of the Year for our district. And from her presentation, I'm sure you can see why she was, this is just one of her many attributes that she brings to the table, and we appreciate her work. Thank you, Mrs. Holton. Okay, so moving along, we now have Dr. Rebecca Farley. She is our pre-K through 8 instructional supervisor, and she's going to provide us with lots of information regarding our voluntary pre-K program, as well as different initiatives in the district. Good morning, Dr. Farley.
She's having technical difficulties.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here with you. I have spoken to a few of you a couple years ago and shared pre-K information. This will be updated information. This will be the information from this school year. So first, we will go over our pre-K numbers. As of February the 12th, we had 177 students enrolled, and this is a 73% percent utilization of our 240 spots that we have. We have 136 students that are Tier 1 income eligible, and that's only 77%. And we have 6 Tier 2 students, and that's 3%. So before I go on, I want to share a little bit more information about this fact. As I said, we do have 240 spots in pre-K. They do look at our utilization. They want us to have 90, or they want us to have 240. They want it to be filled. Well, obviously we're lacking there. And also they want us to have 90% Tier 1. And again, we're falling a little bit below there. So I'm anxious to see, it is a grant program, and they do look at our utilization. So we should know about that shortly. For the 2021 school year, we have registered 256 students, and this is compared to 298 that we registered for the 1920 school year. For 1920, we did get to have a countywide registration where we were all together. We have had 67 students that are not being served due to a wait list. Brown Elementary is the only school with a wait list, or families simply declining the spots due to COVID. For this school year, we have had 7 families that have chosen to withdraw their students for whatever reason. We do focus heavily on attendance. Our early learners are building a foundation that we want for them to have the next 14 years as they attend school. And obviously attendance is a big issue. We do track attendance every 20 days by school and by classroom. So far this school year, our learners have combined to attend 13,580 days of school. And they've had 898 absences. That's an attendance rate of 93.4%. Unfortunately, we do have about 10% of our students with an attendance plan, which means that they have missed more than 6 days unexcused. Attendance plans are developed at the school level, and it is working with the family, the school counselor, the principal, and the pre-K teacher. Every year, I do analyze our test data to see how effective our pre-K program is. A couple of years ago, if you all remember, Vanderbilt did this study, and it showed that after 3rd grade, you no longer saw the benefits of pre-K. Well, every year that I've completed our data, Cumberland County proves that statistic wrong. And this year, with us having no state data, I did analyze our star reading data, and this is their winter data. I waited on the winter data instead of the fall data to hopefully give the children an opportunity to recoup some of the learning loss from being out from March to May. But as you can see, the first columns are scale scores of star reading. And the first column is the VPK experience compared to no VPK. And in all 9 schools, you can see VPK scores are higher, and it's the same for percentile rank. Those that had VPK do score higher than those that did not. So final line here, a student who attended pre-K had an average scale score of 437.3 compared to a student who did not have pre-K having a scale score of 377.7. And you can see the same there with percentile rank. Pre-K had 58.4 and no pre-K had 47.1. We also did the same thing with math, and you'll see that in the next chart. We experienced a little bit of difference here. We did have 2 schools that their no pre-K scored higher than those that had pre-K, and that was Crab Orchard and Pineview. But overall, still held true. A student who did have pre-K had an average skill score of 588.2 and a percentile rank of 69.8 compared to their no pre-K peer that had a skill score of 552.8 and a percentile rank of 58.6. And this data also still holds true that our students tend to score higher in math than they do in reading. Some additional information on the next slide. The pre-K grant was due February 26th. The state has extended that deadline this week to March the 14th. However, our grant is complete and is waiting on a final submit button to be hit to go on to the state. Our countywide pre-K registration and kindergarten registration hopefully will get to be in person this year. Fingers crossed for that. And that will be on May the 3rd, 2021. Our pre-K program is in compliance with all evaluations, observations, and plans which were completed for the first semester and submitted to the state. Next, I would like to talk to you all about the new reading series. As you know, Cumberland County adopted a new reading series. Our grades kindergarten through 5th grade went with Amplify, Core Knowledge, Language Arts. It's also called CKLA. Our 6th through 8th, actually it was 6th through 12 this year adopted it, but I will discuss 6th through 8 Study Sync. Both of these groups were virtually trained with the new curriculum by the publisher for classroom teachers that were in place by July the 20th, 2020. So first I want to talk to you about CKLA. This is a very, very different approach than our teachers are used to. Obviously we do need a different approach when we only have 30-something% of our 3rd graders reading on tracker at mastery. We need to come up with a different approach. We are participating in a partnership with the LIFT network, and the LIFT stands for Leading Innovation for Tennessee. And this 15 districts across the state, and the purpose of their network is to assist with the implementation of high quality English language arts materials. For this first semester, we have conducted model lessons of Cumberland County teachers in each grade level delivering CKLA instructions, and these were recorded and posted to our Cumberland County Schools websites. This was at the teacher's request due to a survey, and I'll give you more information on that in a minute. And at this point, we have collaborated and participated in 2 teacher PLCs and 2 administrator PLCs through the LIFT network. With CKLA, we have conducted and analyzed 2 teacher surveys on the implementation of CKLA. And one thing that arose from that survey was that they wanted to be able to see actual teachers teaching the lessons. And the best way for them to do that was to see Cumberland County teachers teaching the lessons, or so I thought that would be the most beneficial. We've also conducted and analyzed 1 administrator survey on CKLA implementation. And at this point, we have completed 2 schools with classroom walkthroughs of their curriculum implementation. We have planned on and scheduled the other 7 schools. I was supposed to be able to meet for this week, but snow decided to change my plans, which was all right. But we do have those scheduled. We will be conducting follow-up professional development, and that will be based on teachers' needs for this summer. Study Sync. At this moment, we have our building administrators with administrative access. So what that means is they can go in a website and they can look and see the materials that the teacher should be teaching at that moment if they go into their classrooms. Plans are in place to work with the ELA instructional coach to provide feedback on implementation practices, just like the walkthroughs we've been doing with CKLA. And again, we do have follow-up professional development occurring this summer based on what the teachers ask for. Learning boxes. This is a box that contains educational tools for students to use in the event of remote learning or having to be quarantined. These boxes were developed for pre-K, kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade students. They were purchased with federal funds. We did survey the teachers and asked them what they felt would be needed in the boxes. We took their top 10, 15 and tried to purchase those items for the boxes. Over 1,700 boxes were compiled. And this was a collaborative effort of many individuals here at Central Services. And we worked on these the week of Christmas, and it took 3 days to get all 1,700 completed. Thanks to maintenance, these were delivered to individual schools on January the 4th and 5th, ready to go for second semester. And our instructional coaches developed English, language arts, and math activities for families to use at home with their students for each grade level. And the last thing that I will be sharing with you today, the next slide shows our Cumberland County Teachers of the Year by school and grade level. And our countywide winners are notified or shown by an asterisk. So our K through 4 Teacher of the Year is Miss Amanda Mullinax at Pleasant Hill Elementary. Our 5 through 8 Teacher of the Year is Miss Heather Dial at Stone Elementary. And our 9 through 12 Teacher of the Year is Miss Laura Gilpin at Cumberland County High School. That is my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Dr. Farley,
Yes, sir.
the Tennessee legislature seems to have passed a new law that requires school systems to teach phonics. Are you familiar with that?
So I do know that we have the Reading 360 that we have the opportunity to enroll in March the 1st. And through that program, that will be one of the places that they will be doing additional work with phonics. Our CKLA for our grades K-5, it is a sounds first approach, which is based on the science of reading. And if you go in a kindergarten classroom, first semesters, our students are taught the sound before they're actually taught that it is a letter that makes that sound. So I'm a little bit familiar with Reading 360, but not, I don't know everything that there is to know about it by far.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Is it my understanding that this program is a scripted program?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
So in essence, we've kind of taken away the creativity of some of the teachers in teaching this?
No, teachers still have the opportunity in some aspect to utilize their creativity. But like I said, CKLA is based on the science of reading, and they do have deliberate scaffolds and techniques in place for helping our students be more successful.
Thank you, Dr. Farley, for this information. We really appreciate it. And as you can see, we're on a new journey with lots of things in our district. And so, Dr. Farley mentioned our Teachers of the Year, and I mentioned that Ms. Marlene Holton was our Supervisor of the Year. Ms. Debbie Beatty at Crab Orchard Elementary was selected by her peers as the Principal of the Year for the district. So I will share that information again with you next week at our regular board meeting. Okay, so moving along, we have Ms. Casey Harris with us this morning, and Ms. Harris is going to provide us with a lot under this particular umbrella. And so, Ms. Harris, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you. All right, I thought I would start this morning with an update about the Baker Crossroads piece of property. This is one that we have, I think during the budget season, the board decided to go ahead and request that we do a formal appraisal on that piece of property, and that has been completed. This shows the plot there's on 70 North with West Preston bordering it there on the right. So you can see the property there. And then I've included for you on the next slide just the overview of what the property assessment data was. in a nutshell, it's a piece of property, 39.37 acres. The board in 2007 paid $290,000 for it. We just completed the appraisal in January, and it came back at $210,000. So that's something for the board to consider. Just to kind of refresh your memory, in the past, recent history, maybe the last 2 years, at one point we did list this with a realtor, and that was not successful. We had listed this as to entertain offers for sale in the paper in the past, and with those requirements met, there has been, I think, one formal offer that the board discussed maybe last year, since we have advertised it as for sale. Excuse me. And we have gone through all those channels. So this is kind of FYI, and it's food for thought if the board does want to entertain additional offers. Right now, if I ever get an inquiry about it, I've told them, getting an appraisal, it's in process. But that would be something for y'all to talk about, think about if that's something the board wants to hold on to, or if you would be open to entertain offers should they come in. So, any comments or questions?
Did the fire impact any of the value?
Baker's Crossroads, building burnt out there. It's close to the property, but not on the property.
It's not, it didn't impact that at all? Okay.
Was that the little old daycare, the little?
Yes,
Okay.
it's been a number of things, but that was what it was going on.
I wasn't aware of that.
And I think that the appraisal took place before the fire.
It was back in January 20th. I believe. But that's a question I could follow up with our appraiser and see if in his professional opinion that would affect the value.
Those properties don't border each other, do they?
No.
I was just thinking if somebody, if they could combine them, they might come up with a good, useful purpose for the property and make it a little more valuable. Thank you.
And I do, if anyone's interested, I do have a copy of the official appraisal report. It's about 20 pages if you ever want to stop by. I've filed that in my office. Any other questions there? All right, so moving on, I've worked with Ms. Kington to give you a quick maintenance update. So far this year, our maintenance department has handled a little over 2,500 work orders. And I thought it'd be interesting to talk about the COVID challenges. COVID has affected every aspect of our lives and our work lives, and particularly in maintenance. Obviously, getting materials has been a challenge. Also, the cost of those materials, as we all know, if anyone has done any type of projects at home, the cost of lumber and pretty much any inputs to a project has skyrocketed, if you can even get it. And then also with labor, and that's something that's an interesting side effect of, I don't know if it's a side effect from COVID or if it's just a coincidence, but our trade folks are not hungry. They're not in any lack of work, and so the prices that they can charge for that type of thing has definitely gone up. And then lead time as well for both labor and materials. And then I also found this interesting, over $53,000 worth of materials that the maintenance department has flagged. Our department, anything that you would buy this year that you would not buy in a typical year, trying to flag that and keep a folder of that. So these things include, they had to build sneeze guards. Who would have thought this time last year we would have even known what a sneeze guard was? But we built those for locations across our, schools. Extra disinfectant, extra, HVAC filters, they're changing those out more frequently. And, even things just like bleach. We've bought a lot more bleach this year than typical. So I just found that interesting, that COVID definitely affects every aspect. The next slide you have here is a snapshot. When we're talking budget, this maintenance 335 line is one of our, we spent quite a bit of time on that. So I wanted it's not all that maintenance does, but it is a big part, some of the bigger projects off of our maintenance schedule, and then those screaming, big project needs. So I wanted to just kind of give you an update there. As you can see, we've got 3 roofing projects. They're kind of at the top and the bottom. Those we expect to be out to bid just as soon as they can get back up on the roof. They've got to double check a few things, and the weather has not been kind to be able to get those specs out. But that should be any day, and that's at Pleasant Hill, the portion at Homestead and CCHS. With CCHS, they did have Christmas Eve. We had a very unlovely surprise with the windstorm that came through. So a portion of the CCHS roof over the gym will be replaced just as soon as possible. And then the rest will be put out to bid, and we'll see what other areas we'll focus on. But that one, if you see folks up there working, that one hopefully will commence as soon as possible. Then we have environmental cleaning at Martin. That's going to be some bench cleaning there. Homestead, the gym floor total refinish, that was completed. We've got some tile projects going on at Crab Orchard, Homestead, and Stone. Those are all projects that kids can't really be in there, and the vendors that were selected for those jobs, they're working with us, but they're very busy too. So we're hoping spring break there. Brown, we are hoping spring break at the latest to do their steel and stripes for their parking lot. If they can get a nice, pretty weekend and they're available, we're on the books there. The Stone Memorial Track, we are looking at our options there. That would be something that, as we kind of talked about in the budget process, we're looking for a patch job there, and we'll do what we can there. But with this wet weather and freezing weather, that'll be a summer project, most definitely. Parking, flashing zone lights, those are ordered and should be in just as soon as everything is set, everything's lined up, as soon as the ground is conducive to that. Martin parking lot lights, we're working with VEC for options there to get them some additional lighting out there. The south HVAC replacement, that, again, we've got everything lined up. We're just waiting on the install. And again, weather plays a role in that for them to be up on the roof. Then below that fixed black line, these were projects that were what I call the screaming projects back in budget season. The Pine View basement drain, our maintenance department has been able to do quite a bit of work, as much as they can do on that. We've had to bring in a vendor to do some sort of core drilling. We'll leave that to the maintenance experts. And as soon as it's dry, they're going to attack that problem. Excuse me. The north electric panel, that one is it's going to require an electric engineer. And that is, if you all remember us discussing that, those parts aren't just hard to find and obsolete, they're almost non-existent anymore. So we should have that done this summer. And then just in general, we also have some money in this line for those projects that come up that aren't really scheduled, plumbing, electric, wood chips, gravel, that type of thing. So just a little bit about kind of where we are on those projects. Next, I know we are very excited. We have seen some movement on this Transition Academy. This is the best exterior drawing that I could give you all to kind of give you a picture of what it's going to look like. It's a little over 1,600 square feet. It is going to be located behind the central office building here, kind of between the parking lot where the building goes. We have some stakes out there to kind of give you an idea. So our concrete work has been bid out, and we're just waiting on the weather there before we can get started there. And just as a reminder, this project is for our transitional academy. It's our folks that have aged out of graduated from high school, and they're 18 to 22, but they still need some training. They still need some life skill training. So TCAT is joining us with this project. It's an educational and a joint project with them, and it's quite exciting. That group is in a portable now. They were in a portable at the location where the building is going to be located several years back. That portable was not in great shape. So we've removed that. They've been in a different portable. It's part of the Phoenix campus now, and so they will be moving into this facility. I hate to throw out a timeline as soon as possible with materials and all the delays, but I'm not going to throw a date out there. But the next slide I've also included for you is the floor plan. I don't know if you all had seen that yet or not, but there on the bottom, you come in the front door. There's going to be a couple, I guess, school-like bathrooms on the right, and then that third bathroom you see is more like a home bathroom setting. They really work on those life skills. With this group of I can't really call them kids, with this group of young adults. There's some storage. Along that back wall, you'll see there is a full kitchen. Again, that's one of the skills we want to work with them on. There's also to the left of that a washer and dryer to work on laundry skills. I think I might send my husband through that academy. He does pretty good. Then there's some storage kind of coming around counterclockwise. There's storage, there's a conference room, there's an office, a space for that teacher. And so I think it's going to be a very good thing. It's exciting to see it slowly coming into fruition. All right. Then finally, I had for you just a quick technology update. Boy, the foresight that our previous boards had to put us in the one-to-one, it was just fortuitous that we were in the shape that we were with technology for this pandemic. And I'm so thankful that that one-to-one initiative has been continually supported. So by March 1, we will have all 5th through 12th graders in the county with the Chromebooks. We are limping along right now, and they might have an older one, but our shipment this year, we ordered those the day after the county commission approved our budget in early September, and that is how long, again, another example of those COVID-related lags. So they were supposed to be here Monday, Tuesday. Mr. Farley came on in that terrible weather and waited for the truck. And of course, the trucks got stuck in the terrible weather in Nashville and then kind of rebooted. So they should be here early next week, and then it'll take our tech team a day or two to get them tagged, inventoried, and then they will be in the hands of students very, very soon. There will be about 4,200 devices total in that 5 to 12 band. Through some of the extra money, we also have purchased additional Chromebooks for our 2th through 4th graders. Those were ordered shortly after ours one-to-one were, and again, they should be here in the next few weeks. I also wanted to point out, you know, we've always relied on technology a lot, but this year, our technology team has really, stepped up and shown us, we've always known they're really good. But they have just showed they can troubleshoot problems we couldn't foresee, this time last year. So officially, they've completed over 2,700 work orders. And this doesn't count the kind of, you see a tech walking down the hall, and I'm guilty of it too. You say, please come here, I need you. This doesn't count, the calls and the on-site, you know, a parent comes in and says, my kid's Chromebook won't connect with Google Classroom, you know. So, the official work orders, you can, that's quite a large number. We're cranking up with budget season. There's so many things we are waiting to hear details on, so we will be discussing those specifics of budget as they become available. So we'll be talking a lot more later. But I'm happy to entertain any questions. All right, thank you.
Okay, no questions? Okay, so it's not quite break time yet because we're just a little bit ahead of schedule. Mr. Sassy, if you can see the screen, that is a virtual apple pie and a hot cup of coffee. Someday we will have one in person, okay? So any questions so far this morning? If Ms. Barnes would be so kind, because of her past experiences, she has worked extensively with the Transition Academy, of course. And Ms. Barnes, would you care to tell us a little bit more about the
They're normal. Can you hear me?
Can you all hear Ms. Barnes?
Is it there? Hello? Hello? So a normal day with Transition Academy, Monday through Thursday tend to be their work day. As long as we are functioning in the green or the yellow metric, they go out into the community. They have off-site work placements that they go to. We actually have several students that are still working in placements that they began through Transition Academy, and they have become full-time employees at these job sites after they ended their stay with Transition Academy, because as you know, they age out at the age of 22. They can no longer come to school in public education. So many of those students, I can count at least 3 on my right now that I can think of that are still at job sites, full-time employees of those particular establishments. But they'll come to school, they come in, they get their breakfast as normal at Phoenix, they go up, they eat, and then if you go up and watch, they'll start disappearing to the restroom, and they come back with a different attire on. Because when they go out to their job sites, they wear their Transition Academy shirts. Mr. George has been the recipient of the charitable funds several times, and he will purchase shirts for them and have them embroidered so that they know that they are part of Cumberland County Schools and Transition Academy. But they do that, or they have scrubs also, I think, if they work in some of the cafeterias around town. Miss Kathy Hamby is wonderful to help us try to get our students into our food services department and let them learn how to work in that area. They worked at Central Baptist, Stonehouse Winery, IGA. We were doing several things with Andy Fair before several of those stores in there had shut down. But just the things that they do is unbelievable, from stocking shelves to washing the dishes to helping prepare the food, as you saw.
sweeping, mopping, just anything that they can do that will help them later in life. On Fridays, they go out into town, and I will tell you that some of the absolute best teacher observations I've ever done is when I go to Walmart and I follow Mr. George around. Of course, people at Walmart are looking at me because I had a notepad and I was taking notes while he's having conversations with the students. But to see how he is teaching them how to shop for their clothes, find their sizes, or do the math. Are you going to have enough money, or is this a better buy based on chips, for example? I know one student wanted a bag of chips, and okay, do we get this size or do we get that size? Well, that says it's on sale, but is that the better buy? He does everything with them. I watch them go to the counter, and they have to use their debit card or the cash that they have. Then they have to count their change if they use cash to make sure the machine gave them the right amount of money. It's phenomenal, and I think just having their own facility that's more suited to them, because they have done very well with that portable that they're in, but I can't wait to see what other life skills that he will put into place with more of a design that he wanted. After running this program for many years, he kind of helped to design it, and I think it's based on what he feels the students need. We were just talking, though, last week, because I think we moved it up forward, up on the campus a little bit more, and how we could make maybe an area with picnic tables and central service staff, as well as, you know, others could come and maybe eat with them. And I think that's a huge piece, because they need those social skills as well, how to interact with other adults. As they're young adults, they're going to have to talk to their coworkers. So I think that'll be wonderful for them as well. I'm super excited, and I know Mr. Kingston is very excited.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. It is just absolutely amazing what Mr. Kington and his students do. And that just speaks to, I think, all of our efforts and goals to educate the whole child. And, you know, there are so many aspects of that, and that's what we try to do. It is currently 10:10. So what we're going to do, I'm going to let Marlene will put up the virtual apple pie and cup of coffee for us. And again, like I said, hopefully sometime in the near future, we will be able to enjoy that in person. So let's plan on taking a break. And if you would log back in or join us, I'm still learning this technology too. So I don't know if we stay like we are, or if we push pause, or not sure how that works. But we will resume. Let's go ahead. Our scheduled break was to end at 10:30. So let's take let's do our 15 to 20 minute break and resume. Everybody back in person, online at 10:30.
Sounds good.
Sounds good, and thank you for the virtual coffee and pie.
Well, I thought about you, Mr. Sassy.
You're kind.
I'm a stretch. Yeah, I'm still.
There are packaged snacks and drinks out here. And I just love it. I said, we have a cruise to have on, and it's a great. I mean, I was happy to do that, but
about that too. And that's what I've learned. That is so. Yeah. See, which would create another issue of, are you
They're right when they're, okay, yeah, 'cause they're gonna call you and say, you gotta come whatever day.
Yes.
Where I kind of know, I have a plan for ours anyway.
So,
Hopefully, it works out like I want it.
I'm going to recommend a little lot of it. We bide our time.
Nice.
Yeah, looks pretty good, huh? I think it looks really good. I love the lines. I love the way it crosses over here. Terrific. Great contemporary. Now this is ePay, so you could use it outside or inside. And if you use it outside, would you bother finishing it or not? Well, it'll wet.
My kids in Cumberland this time. Oh. They were really blowing now. They live really close to Texas, so, you know, they focus, get all that back up, but, they called me. How are you? But it was only out for an hour. Now my oldest is getting ready to come home. That girl thinks I'm the best. I'm looking at her house planning. Because it was in that line, right? And living. Now, Livingston, Hamilton, work in Livingston.
The cost you can get it.
This morning. I'm lost without my chewing gum.
Oh, I thought you said gun.
No. I did.
Felt better about that. Maxwell. Big selfish, but come on.
Legally,
Legally, it's probably 35. How are your kids? But the view is really like, oh, yeah, the one that I was teaching that one, close to that. Yeah, I'll have to.
So you don't live in Cookville?
Yeah, right. I love that kind of, I can't wait to give kids our money to add which one I did. Sit around and watch TV. No one got out and really played. I saw one, they were kayaking. They had kayaking. Are we back on? Time for part 2 of part 1.
far so far. Thank you all for staying here with us and joining us. We've got folks coming back in. We are going to lead off the second part. Of course, as I said earlier, the second part is devoted completely to our response to the pandemic, because it would be definitely not appropriate if we did not address this, because this has encompassed every aspect of all of our lives. It has affected all of us directly and indirectly in some form or fashion. And so to start us off today, Ms. Marsha Polson, our nurse supervisor, is going to share some things with us, and she got very creative. I love the creativity that some of our folks are engaging with, and she has some very creative things added to her slide presentation that I think will warm our hearts as we talk about this very serious topic.
Thank you for being here today. And our, I guess, theme this year was we're all in this together, but I added 6 feet apart because of social distancing. And it's been a challenge in every aspect, and I applaud every single department has really worked hard at COVID and requirements, regulations, adjustments, just have really bound together to make sure we're all safe. And that's what it's all about. So I wanted you to have the opportunity to listen to COVID from the perspective of our kids as well. So you enjoy, throughout this, you'll enjoy some perspective of our children.
What is a pandemic?
A catchy disease.
So according to NOC, a catchy disease is what a pandemic is, and you'll hear some really interesting insight on what COVID, isolation, and quarantine means. What is COVID? It is an acute respiratory illness in humans caused by corona, capable of producing severe symptoms and in some cases death, especially in older people and those with underlying health conditions. It was originally identified in China in 2019, hence why it's called COVID-19, and became a pandemic in 2020. So that's the official what is COVID. And I'm going to let Alexis tell you a little bit more about it.
Marsha, can I have you pause just a minute? I think we're having some audio.
We're going to pause for a moment. We have some audio issues.
What is a pandemic? The big virus. What does it mean to be in quarantine? Stay at home all the time. What do you think about being in isolation? Away from other people. Is it fun or boring? Boring. What do you think about wearing masks to school with all your friends? Boring. Why is it boring? Because I don't like wearing masks. It covers my eyes. Covers your eyes?
So, as you can see, Alexis has an insight, as well as our next gentleman is going to tell us a little bit about quarantine.
What is quarantine?
Quarantine is a place you must stay at if you have a virus until it is cured.
Simple, right? I think our children have shown remarkable insight on how they feel and what isolation and quarantine means to them. Our next one is Lacey Hubbard from Brown Elementary.
What is a pandemic?
Pandemic is a virus that spreads around the world.
Okay. What is quarantine? What does quarantine mean?
When someone has coronavirus, you touch them around and stop their home.
Okay. What does isolation mean to you?
When you got the virus.
What do you think about wearing masks?
I don't like it, but my teacher and everybody else around me said you gotta do it.
I don't like them, but my teacher and everybody around me says I got to do it, to say that. That was her quote. And then, Knox is gonna tell us again what isolation means.
What does isolation mean to you?
Isolation means leaving someone at home while you go to school to prevent others from getting your virus.
And so, I wanted to talk a little bit about what precautions we've had in place, thus far. And, you know, we started out with school last year, thinking about all the precautions we've had to put into place. And, how quickly that we had to begin these precautions. And there are things from hand sanitizing stations, thermometers, social distancing, cleaning and work cleaning, hand washing, face mask and the facial covering, protective equipment, isolation areas, contact tracing, the cafeteria changes that they made, and the changes in the schedule as well as to manage the hallway traffic. So we're going to start with the hand sanitizing stations. You can see here an example of what our hand sanitizing stations. Some of them are spread out through the school, and this is one example of where they had put one right outside the cafeteria in the hallway, so students could stop by and sanitize as they were walking down the hallway. And these are in every school, several different areas in the school. And then also, you know, you see the regular, everybody has a bottle of hand sanitizer in their classroom, and just about everywhere you'll see hand sanitizer, which is beneficial, along with hand washing, of course. But hand sanitizing has been a great improvement. This is Avery White from South Cumberland Elementary.
Pandemic.
An outbreak of a virus.
Well, what's quarantine?
Stuck at home.
What does isolation mean to you?
Sick people stay away from people that are not sick so they don't get sick.
What do you think about wearing a mask?
A mask is like a car key. You can't leave home without it.
I love that quote. The mask is like a car key, you can't leave home without it. So I think she has some real insight on how that this year has been. Thermometers are everywhere in our schools. You have the facial thermometers, facial recognition thermometers. They are stationed generally at every entrance, so that the bus, as well as the students entering the facility and staff, are able to check their temperature on the way in. We also have the handheld that they're using inside the cars. And here you can see at Martin Elementary in the left corner, or the right corner there, where they have them right at the entryway of the school. And also, you know, you have your nurses who did take temperatures before graduation last year. So there's various thermometers, and they are everywhere. We are taking people's temperature every day, all the time.
Seventh grade. Okay, can you tell me what COVID means?
COVID is a worldwide disease right now.
Okay. What is a pandemic?
Pretty much the same thing.
Pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Okay, what is isolation? Can you tell what isolation means?
Isolation is when some people are like locking themselves out from the rest of the world.
Great. What does your teacher say about wearing a mask?
She says that we should keep them on to protect ourselves and other people.
Wonderful. What is social distancing?
Social distancing is where you need to stay away from someone else to protect yourself.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Ms. Lily.
Visual reminder that have been placed on the floor so the kids can see how far 6 feet apart is. And it's a visual, a very good visual of how far 6 feet is. And, you know, it's really hard to stay that far away from your friends. So it also helps the teachers as well. And not only are they reminded here, but the cafeteria, in their classroom, while they're waiting on bathroom time, they're being reminded, you know, stay 6 feet apart if you can at all. And I think that has been a real challenge, but it has been a wonderful collaboration from all areas to make sure that our kids are safe. And so the next one we have is Mackenzie Smith.
Okay, Mackenzie, what is a pandemic?
The pandemic is a surgery.
Okay. What is quarantine?
Quarantine, you don't have school.
What do you think isolation is?
That means nothing will work.
How does your teacher remind you to wear your mask?
Because you got to in school.
She talked to. And I thought that was really a good instance of isolation as well. Nothing will work. When you're in isolation, pretty much, you can't do a whole lot of anything. So nothing really works well. So from the perspective of the kids, the adults, I heard a lot at the beginning of COVID. There's no school, no prom, no festivities, no spring formal, no friends, no sports. We got to stay at home. We got to stay at home. I'm tired of staying at home. And then, you know, from a positive perspective, what they shared with me was it's time for family and time for bonding together to learn online. And the teachers are preparing for the months to come, virtual and classroom, and how I'm going to do both of those things. And they're reaching out to figure out ways that they can talk to one another and still stay social distance, and utilizing technology in all of this. Learning to socialize on the computer rather than being face-to-face with family as well as school friends. That was one of the best things about virtual learning that I could see when my kids were doing virtual learning and we were out of school quarantine, was that when they would pull up their friends online before class would begin, they would socialize and talk about the things that were going on with them and what they had done this week. And it was particularly Lily's favorite time of the day. And so, you know, being able to socialize on the computer, learning to protect ourselves as well as others, and getting ready for the change to come is how we started in March. And this is an insight from Farley Davis. She is a senior at Cumberland High School.
Hello, my name is Briley Davis, and I'm a senior at Cumberland County High School. And I know that it has been a crazy year for students and teachers with COVID and everything. I'm going to explain a little bit of how it has affected my year as a senior and everything like that. So with sports, I cheer and play softball for the school. So with cheer, we didn't have a state competition this year, and they don't have a date for nationals yet, but we're not going to go if they have it. I didn't get to experience a cheer camp as a senior at Tech, and we missed half of basketball this year, which I know that that's not technically our sport, but we love cheering for them, and it stinks that we missed it, really. COVID has affected softball by giving us a late start. This summer, we didn't get to practice much, and as of right now, we have a start date for the season, but we don't know if that's really going to happen with cases. I'm not sure if they're still rising or not, but it's just kind of stressful not knowing. With school, the masks and social distancing really haven't been a problem for me personally. But it's the online school that has been difficult. It's hard for me to focus in school, let alone at home sometimes. So it being online has been difficult. And even in class, we're doing stuff more on our computers instead of on pen and paper. And I'm someone that really needs the teacher in front of me and it on paper. And it's just much easier for me to do that. It's made class a lot harder this year, everything being online. But teachers have been doing a great job helping us, and I really appreciate everything. Thank you.
And I think she gives a great shout out to our educators there, how they have really helped her and tried to do the things that they can to help them online with online learning. Here we have cleaning with what I call the wand. The EMS sprayers, and that was a great addition to our force for hopefully sanitizing and getting, as clean and as safe as we can. This is the picture of the actual sprayer itself, and it's utilized daily in every classroom. Our custodians have went above and beyond and really tried to utilize this as much as they can, and especially in high traffic areas such as the cafeteria or bus, the bus rooms or any place where we've kept more children throughout the day. But not only when you use this one, when the custodian is gone, it still has to happen. So here you see one of our Phoenix employees, and she was using the wand that day for cleanliness for the classrooms as well as Barnes was cleaning the bathrooms while this all occurred. So, if the custodian is out, somebody still has to do it. And our principals and administrative staff have been very helpful in joining together and encouraging the children to pick up and clean, as well as do the things that the kids can't do, like this one. The EMS has been, like I said, a beneficial part of cleanliness and hopefully sanitation so that our kids are as safe as they possibly can be. And not only are we using this one, but our water fountains and doors, we're watching them all the time. And then, at certain parts, when we are in the red, of course, we're covering the water fountains and only using the water bottle fill stations, which that has been a very great asset. We've had a couple that have been added this year so far, and the water bottle fill stations, the kids are really utilizing that to get their water intake for the day. It has been a wonderful help to us because they can use their individual water bottles. And I think some were donated as well, water bottles for every student in Cumberland County, and that was a great help. As well, from the water bottles, we have the HVAC. They're doing, this is primarily a droplet spread disease. So our maintenance have been trying to do HVAC service, and our really working hard to maintain the air as well as sanitizing the desk and that kind of thing. You know, we've had a lot of refreshers going on, refresher courses. Here you can see Nurse Charity was doing hand washing with one of the classes, as well as we had videos about, I made a video about hand washing and wearing your mask and personal protective equipment that they were utilizing as well. And you know, there's a lot of hand washing, wear your mask, refreshers that are going on in the school. And so I wanted you to hear from Matthew here. He is a North Cumberland student, and he is going to tell you about math.
What do you think about wearing a mask at school?
It is boring because you can't breathe.
And certainly, I love the answer to boring because most everybody gives that answer. When you ask someone of that age, if they don't like it, that's their answer. But, you know, that is a great challenge, but something that we have seen in work is that wearing your mask has been, there's several different ways. You know, I've heard teachers say, pull your mask up, wear it over your nose and your mouth. I think there are some schools that are using it as positive behavior as they come through and they have their mask on appropriately. I know the Phoenix campus give out plane tickets for I have my mask on appropriately, rather than getting on to the ones that don't have those on. They're giving reward for the ones that are wearing them, which is an excellent resource and a great way to get the kids to participate. And really, it has been a smooth transition. When you see the kids coming into the school, Ray was alluding to that the other day, that it was smooth. The kids were already ready when they got to the door to get their temperature taken. They're ready with their mask on to go to school. And that has been a wonderful, wonderful area. And of course, personal protective equipment is everywhere. We have tried to make sure that the schools have been given as much as they need. And now that TEMA has allowed them to do their own ordering of it, it's been very beneficial for them to order what supplies they need, mask-wise, gloves-wise. And they also have the alcohol wipes to wipe down their desks with as well that they can order from TEMA. And it has been truly a good process and easy, not too hard. Isolation areas, at the beginning of the year, we had to create new isolation areas for the kids who have COVID symptoms while they're waiting on their parents. So every school has had a different setup, but they have really risen to the challenge, and some of the clinics have been changed around. They have been, the isolation areas have been conference room converted, and all the way to the whole clinic has been moved to a classroom area, so that way they have plenty of room for all the students. So it's been, and you know, creativity of the back porch. You know, the kids are isolated, and then they can go on to meet their parents. So, you know, it's been a creative process, but it has been, we have an area in every school where we can isolate the kids. And here's some advice from my Lily.
Hi. Hi, my name's Lily.
And you're from what school?
North Cumberland Elementary.
Tell me, what is COVID?
A disease people get sick of. Some people even die from it.
What is quarantine?
Quarantine is where you stay in the house, isolate from others so you don't get them sick.
What is a pandemic?
Can I tell you what I think it means? I think it means like a group of people getting sick.
And tell me what your teacher says to you about wearing your mask.
Wear your mask in the halls no matter what. Actually, just wear your mask no matter what.
What advice do you have for anybody talking about COVID?
I have advice. Let's see. Wear your mask. Don't be around others if you have COVID. And if you think you have COVID, you should go get tested. If you're positive, please isolate. If you're negative, you'll be fine. You can go back to school.
And I love that. You'll be fine. You can go back to school. That's what all children's nurses say. I wanted to point out that we've adapted really well, and that our schools have been at a moment's notice able to adapt to the change from medium spread to high spread, and how it goes back and forth from a day-to-day basis. They have received the email, covered the water fountains, changed the way cafeteria food is delivered, and changed the way that they are in the hallway, and whether we're going to special areas or we're not going to special areas. And it has been sometimes at a moment's notice. You get the email, and then the next day you're ready to go. So, I applaud that. That's a big opportunity for the things that they've done and adapted, and how much they've adapted and changed things. I wanted to tell you a little bit about contact tracing. This is one of the challenges with COVID has been contact tracing. First, we receive a report, which would be from the parent guardian of a positive case of COVID. And then you have to ask a lot of questions about when did you contract it, when your symptoms started, how long you had this, when you left at school, did you ride the school bus? A lot of informational things, who sits near you, is there anyone you spend time with after school or in an after school activity. Then you figure out who sits within 6 feet of that person for more than 15 minutes. And I've had to enlist a team of what I'm going to call COVID researchers, and private eyes. I have seen them take a tape measure and measure out how far one desk is from another desk, counting the tiles on the floor to make sure that we contact everybody who is a direct contact. And as well as our transportation department has been very good to assist us in researching who is close to a contact, as well as having seating charts. It has been a real challenge with the research that has to be done with every single case that's reported. Then we make a list of all those people, including the special services if they get PTOT, any kind of therapy, and of course bus transportation. Then we check it twice to make sure they were there that day, or the last day of their exposure with that person. Then you figure out how many days that they're going to be out, and it can be 7, 10, 14, 17, 20, or 24 days. And then you notify each of the parents and let them know what the situation is and that they need to stay home. And then I send a spreadsheet to the health department, and they do their contact tracing from there. And they ask some questions about demographics, pretty much, and the symptoms that they have. So I just wanted you to know a little bit about contact tracing before we go into the next section, which is doing the math. I think some of you are really interested in some of the data that we've been reporting every week. And this week, of course, we did not have school, so I did not report any data because of that reason. But this is reported data. The parents, it's objective. The parents or guardians, staff members report the positive exposure, positive or the exposure to a positive. Then you look at the data, ask the questions, do the things that we need to do, the data's reviewed. And then I also wanted to point out that those who are quarantined do so as a direct contact with someone who tests positive, and that can be both inside and out of the school setting. For the most part, our quarantine numbers come from people who have been in contact outside of the school setting. So keep that in mind when you look at these numbers. We started at the beginning of the year, and this is before school started or at the very beginning when school did start, with 16 student positives, 12 staff positives, 67 in quarantine, and 30 staff that had quarantine. And that was statistics from the very beginning of the year, and that was actually data throughout the summer, at the end of the school year, in March, April, May, June, July, and August. And again, that's reported and subjective. So then our numbers in September are more to the point of what we had actual numbers weekly. So as you can see here, I have each week listed and the number of total students positive. You have 11, 3, 8, 4, that's the whole month of September. Your staff positive here. And you're going to see a huge difference between quarantine numbers and positive numbers on every single one of these slides. Because with a case, if someone reports a case to me of a positive student, for instance, and that student is in contact with 10 people throughout the day and on the bus, then you have 1 positive and 10 in quarantine as a result of that. So you can see here why the quarantine numbers are quite a bit more than our positive numbers, and also because, you know, you have all of the contacts outside of school, again, are a large portion of these numbers as well. So this is October, and you can see relatively small amounts positive cases versus quarantine cases in October. And now in November, on the next slide, you're going to see where our cases start to rise and our quarantine numbers start to rise. And that was directly related to what I think was the Halloween holiday. You can see the second week in November, first and second week, but the second week, particularly in November, numbers went up for all of the cases, both staff and student cases. Then, as you see toward the end of November and going into December, as you know, county-wide, our numbers rose significantly. And you're going to see ours are reflected there as well. Again, the 1st of December, we were running the numbers that were related to probably Thanksgiving holiday and times that were spent together there. The first 2 weeks in December, you'll see a reflection of that. And then toward the end of December, when we were out of school, of course, the reported data is not, we don't get as many reports because they're out of school. So, and then in January, you're going to see again where that the numbers start going down, which I'm so pleased about. January's case totals are more like October and directly related, on the next one in February, the case totals there, again, we're running kind of like we were at the very beginning of school in September. They look much, much better. And then, on the next slide, I wanted to show you really relatively what positive cases in Cumberland County. These are reported positive cases for the week that is listed there. I got all of the number of positive cases as compared to our positive cases, active cases. Ours were positive active cases. Theirs were positive reported cases. So you can see here how that we trend with the rest of the county, our up and down trend, but we are really not even, if you look at these charts, we're probably not even a 10% margin of the number of positive cases in Cumberland County that is reflected in Cumberland County schools. So I just wanted you to see that. I think that visualization makes what all we do really, really shine out. And here is Lana Arp. She's from Pineview Elementary School.
Oh, what's your name?
Lana.
Lana, what grade are you in? Second grade. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, okay?
Okay.
Can you tell me what COVID is?
COVID is something that can harm you, and it's a virus.
Very good. Do you know what a pandemic is?
Yes, pandemic is when you have to be safe and be cautious about stuff, and you have to not go anywhere for a very long time.
Very good. What about isolation? Do you know what isolation is?
Yes, it's like a pandemic, but isolation is where you quarantine yourself maybe, and you can't see anybody for a really, really, really long time.
Okay. What does your teacher say about masks?
Masks, we have to wear it we don't have to wear it in our seats, but we do have to wear it when we go.
Okay. Do you know what social distancing is?
Yes, it's where you have to stand 6 feet apart, where you can't, or you have to wear a mask to be close to somebody.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Lana, for all your questions and answers. Thank you.
So, rising to the challenge again, all of our schools, and I really think that they speak a large portion of understanding. Their knowledge and understanding has been phenomenal. So now I want to talk about my nursing staff. I'll just highlight these folks. This is Ms. Nikita Hubbard. She is at Brown Elementary. The next one is Ms. Christy Wiley at Crab Orchard Elementary. Next we have Michelle Rhymes at Glen Martin Elementary. You have Nurse Darlene Wallace at Homestead Elementary. You have Nurse Charity Walker at North Cumberland Elementary. We have Nurse Christy Waldo at Pineview Elementary. Nurse Cheryl Long at Pleasant Hill Elementary School. And we have Nurse Christy Colton at South Cumberland Elementary School. We have Nurse Kat Reed at Stone Elementary School. We have Nurse Anita Davis at Stone Memorial High School. We have Nurse Jimmy Maybrath at County High School. And we have Nurse Ashley Adams, who has assumed a new position at the Phoenix High School temporarily because of funding. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we have, I wanted to give you a highlight of our substitute nurses. This is Nikki Holloway, Sarah Matthews, and Bailey Lewis, all substitute nurses that come in when we need someone to cover. And then we also have Nurse Amy Cisco, who came from Phoenix to help me with coordinated school health and contact tracing due to extra funds that we've been able to procure, I think. And then you have myself as the supervisor, and I really wanted to put a private investigator for COVID tracing. I really feel like that was what I've done mostly this year. I wanted to talk a little bit about nursing services and what they've accomplished this year. And the total nursing visits so far are 21,959 nursing visits, with 1,300, a little over 1,300 sent home with COVID symptoms. And this is all documented through Skyworth, which has been a real blessing to keep up with these numbers. And those nursing visits also have, within those, 12,507 have been medications that were administered during that time, and treatments given as well. Also, office visits returning the student to class. Now, this is an important number right here. 18,000 of those original 21,000 visits, 18,000 of those went back to class. So that speaks volumes of why you need a school nurse, because a lot of those would have went home with COVID symptoms had you not had a school nurse in there. Stellar reimbursement for services, we have so far this year gotten $1,254 in reimbursement for nursing services. We've been working with Stellar to get that reimbursement for. Some of our projects and health services, other than the general day-to-day things, we've done 1,047 procedures. Kindergarten through 7th grade immunizations have been reviewed and updated and placed in tennis, and that's the state tracking website, and our nurses are helping click those, make sure that documentation is in tennis for the Tennessee state, and they're all tennis trained. And maintaining the COVID sheets, CPR, and doing first aid trainings as well for those who are in our school system that need that. We are doing health services. Also, Amy and I this year are doing weight, height, blood pressure, vision, and hearing. We've utilized our nurses to help us with weight and height and our nursing students, and that has been very helpful. But the vision and hearing we're attempting to do as we speak. Vaccinations. This was a hot topic. It's a hot topic this week for sure, because we have moved into Plan 1B from the state, and guess who's on that list? Teachers and school employees. So the plan is, and I look forward to soon knowing the exact date, within the week is what I'm looking for, next week. Hopefully I will have that final note as soon as they know the number that they can receive from the state of vaccinations. Instead of a date, I have 412 people who have signed up for a vaccine and 72 that have received them somewhere else prior to now. So we're looking at 500 people throughout the school system who will be vaccinated coming soon. I'm excited about that. We're looking at 2 afternoons from after school, and they will be done at the fairgrounds at the complex. So this is something we look forward to participating in and working with, and hopefully the vaccinations will be underway. Now, there is the first vaccine we'll be receiving now, and then 3 weeks later we'll receive the second dose. So And then there is another 2 weeks before you're actually considered completely vaccinated. So then there'll be a little lag time, but initially I will have 500 people that I don't have to call to quarantine, because if you receive a vaccination, you do not have to quarantine. Woo-hoo. As far as COVID goes, that's where we're at. And I'd like to show you a few things that are happening in coordinated school health, because health services, coordinated school health, and COVID are different aspects of life. So coordinated school health, I asked people to send us success stories, things that they're doing in their schools that's related to coordinated school health. And here is our state, the first one is our state flyer. And on this flyer, Pineview's new walking trail has been highlighted. That's the flyer the whole state is sending out to everywhere. I love seeing our school highlighted really well. At the beginning of school, Second Harvest Food Bank gave tons of vegetables, and our cafeteria staff delivered those with the meals in the summer, and that's meals going directly farm to the home. And I love that opportunity there. Here's the kids at North planting the gardens that's out back, and that's the summer, the CCQ kids doing that, and they had a ball. We had strawberries and tomatoes. They were still picking tomatoes in October. The Fuel Up to Play Summit 2020, they did not get to hold that, but Braden Thompson was our state national representative from Cumberland County, and that was a big deal. And him and Miss Vineyard have been highlighted several times because of that. Our Pineview Trail, again, here is pictures of the Pineview Trail. It is 0.2 miles, but it's a nice little trail out there for them to walk on. It's new, thanks to our maintenance department. They helped us carve out the trail and work on it. And this is the Pleasant Hill Trail as well. It is encompassed around the outside of the football field, so that they can walk the trail and be inside of the teachers. But the trail walks are very important with COVID, because they can social distance while they're walking the trail. Here's some highlights from Crab Orchard. They did a Fuel Up to Play kickoff week, and you can see a lot of cute mustache pictures and playing pictures, and kids that are dressed up in all kinds of costumes. You have here smoothies. They do smoothies all the time. Superheroes, pin the tail on the cow. They had just a great opportunity to do Fuel Up to Play things here, and supply me with lots of cool pictures. As you can tell, they're a busy bunch out there when it comes to doing Fuel Up to Play and Dairy Alliance as well. You're going to see some more of those in just a little bit. But here they are using the Second Chance breakfast that's offered for the kids in between breakfast and lunch. The kids have an opportunity to get breakfast a second time, and you can see the carts where they have creatively housed the breakfast so that they can distribute it during that off time. The next one is Mr. Saldana at SMHS. The students were complimenting him on wearing his PPE appropriately at the beginning of the year, and throughout the year they have. The next one is the health science students. They teach them proper hand washing, and that is our nursing students, as well as those SMHS and CCHS, but they teach them proper hand washing to take care of other people. Crab Orchard, beautiful playground. We did a marathon and Run for Fun, and this was the 6th grade marathon. We had 2 winners in that, and one from Pleasant Hill, one from Crab Orchard, and they ran several miles on their own. Walk Across Tennessee, because we haven't been able to do a lot of activities, this is something we ask our staff to participate and challenge them to participate in Walk Across Tennessee. And we had a lot of employees that really participated and made it all the way across Tennessee. 3 teams here. It was a lot of fun to compete. Again, our screenings are underway. We have the South kids were working on the marathon. I think they were running a marathon there as well. Homestead's running crew. They were doing the trail, the Cumberland County trails. CCHS, distracted driving, they did displays the entire week, and this mannequin would have different things every day that were relative to distracted driving. So she would add another piece of equipment or a cell phone or a drink or a hamburger to the display. So every day it was interactive. The kids would come in and listen to see what was distracting them. You have Crab Orchard's girls got some new tennis shoes from the New York Road Runners and New Balance, and that was a great opportunity there. Pleasant Hill, they wrote letters and drew pictures of telling what they did over the summer and why COVID was difficult. And mental health is important here because we don't know the total effects of all this isolation and quarantine is going to have on our children. So it's really important that we support them in that area. Homestead, they had a socially distanced Halloween celebration, and they had a lot of fun activities in the gym. Here is Coach Brady for the day, one of the kids that was the coach for the day in the classroom. Here is the virtual creepy crawl, which they dressed up in their costumes and did a run. The Brand Club did. Second graders in class, and you'll see this all throughout the district, is kids in the classroom doing their physical activity during the day. And it's challenging, but they've really done some good things. The Patterson's class doing hand washing here in North. And here is our South nurse, Christy, celebrating National Milk Day. And the next one is one of the funnest things I've got to do this year, I think, is the Diabetes Prevention Drawing Contest. And basically, we gave this to 4th graders to increase awareness of diabetes and how to prevent diabetes. And our winner was Ronan Fields, and this was his drawing, and he's in the next picture with his new bicycle. So the Diabetes Center from Cumberland Medical Center donated a bicycle, and that was a fun project. South Cumberland, here we are using Go Noodle to do stress and control our stress levels and do some exercises to do that. Pleasant Hill is working on Start Your Day the Parfait Way, Fill Up the Play Challenge, and Summer Elementary got creative with salad cups because salad is hard to distribute, and these were beautiful. Maybe you want to eat a salad, I don't know. Pineview had a huge clothes donation, and they sent that out directly to the kids at that time. I think the Knights of Columbia did that. The Milk Mustache Contest. So if you want to play 60 in the Dairy Alliance, we had 2 winners from, and this is a national contest. We have 2 winners from Cumberland County. There were 4 winners chosen in, I think it's 8 states that surround us. 2 of them are from Cumberland County. What you need to do is go to the website. One of them, Lucy Minyard, has a bunch of Milk Mustache things on there, and you need to like those because we have to turn in our likes and shares. And on the Pleasant Hill website, they have one as well. And those 2 competitions are going on now. You need to watch those and like those. In the state, CSH highlights in they do newsletter, and we've been highlighted a couple of different times. In this particular one, we were highlighted over our Super Bowl recipe contest, which we had over 100 entries. And if you need some recipes that are good snacks, I've got them for you. And Ms. Savage's class as well. We have a couple things that I'm planning right now: the district-wide virtual dance party, the decal competition, and both of those, and also the virtual talent show. Those two are with Cumberland County Rising, an anti-vape billboard design competition. We also have, hopefully, we're going to do some sort of virtual health fair or life maze if we can later towards the spring. But you know, a lot of things going on, and never ending. It's a lot of fun. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question. Can I ask a question? I actually have like 2 or 3 questions about the numbers. I think I understood you right. The majority of the kids that we have sent home because they tested positive did not get COVID at school. They did it outside of school as far as your investigations.
The majority, yeah.
Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, have we had any students hospitalized due to COVID this year?
Not that I know.
Have we had any teachers hospitalized?
Teachers?
Staff?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Do you have a number? Do you know?
I can't disclose.
I'm not asking for names. We don't have any numbers. You don't have a percentage. I'm
have,
just curious.
as far as are you talking all staff or just teachers?
Staff.
3 that I'm aware of.
Okay. And how do you go about, if they do not, what's the word? If they do not get COVID at school, how do you go about finding out that these other kids have been around them? Does that make sense? I know they're together at school, but most of our classes are very spaced out. They're socially distant. Now we have a couple of grades that we can't with too many kids in the classroom. But how do you go about getting in people's lives and asking them those kinds of questions? I don't know.
It's challenging. I cannot research what they do outside of school unless they offer that information.
Okay. But they are offering that apparently, because we're finding
A lot
out.
of people are offering that information. If they have a birthday party, they'll say, hey, we had a birthday party and X, Y, Z, Q were there.
It's okay that they give out that private information about other people.
Well, it's okay that they give out information about themselves. They're not giving any private information on anybody else. I mean, if they were at a birthday party, they're not giving out any private information over there. Yeah. But for the most part, people offer the information that's needed to contact. But if it's outside of school, they are responsible for doing their own contacting. That's not something I want to challenge, and it probably doesn't have anything related to school.
And my last statement that I want to make, because the unions are really big right now in the news, Cumberland County Education Association is absolutely in agreement with us being in school. We are not at all on the bandwagon of, we don't feel like kids should be at school or teachers should be in school. We are absolutely in agreement with that, and we wanted that in August, and we're very thankful that we've been able to be at school all year. We have no desire not to be here. Teachers want to be in school in Cumberland County, so no matter what you hear on the news, these teachers here do not feel like that.
Thank you, Ms. Kenton.
2 questions. Are Cumberland County schools as safe as we can make them?
I feel like Cumberland County schools have went above and beyond and actually have been applauded by our local health department as well. Minnie Doyle, the director there, has applauded several times our efforts and has mentioned how that it has not only affected just our school population, but what we are doing is affecting others as far as mitigating spread of disease.
Do masks work?
Do masks work? They are proven by CDC and the local health department as well to be beneficial in decreasing the spread of disease.
So in spite of the unpopularity of Cumberland County schools having a mask mandate, that they are an important tool. Would you agree with that statement?
An important tool along with many other tools that we're utilizing as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Sassy had a question.
Mr. Sassy?
Yeah. Nurse Paulson, why would we have to quarantine any of our staff or other students if those students and staff that were quarantined did not get COVID?
Mr. Sassy, I don't think I understand your question. If someone is exposed to COVID, then they should remain home for a number of days that are required. I don't quarantine anyone, that's the health department's job, but I do ask them to remain home from school.
I guess, have you followed up on those that were quarantined to determine who among those quarantined actually were symptomatic of COVID during that 10 or 14 day or 7-day period of quarantine? Do you have those numbers?
I do not have numbers regarding that because linking those cases is impossible, because I could have been exposed at school as well as at the same time been exposed at church or Walmart or somewhere else. So I can't really say that the reason why they got it was because they were at school and exposed at school. They could have been exposed by family members as well.
I understand that. I guess what I'm asking is, if we quarantine over 800 people during a year period of time, and none of those during the quarantine period showed signs or were symptomatic of COVID, then my observation would be that we were very effective in the school in reducing exposure to COVID, even though for 15 minutes they were exposed to a student or to a faculty member who had COVID, that the methods that you used to help deter the spread were effective, and those that were quarantined did not develop it because of our school's precautions that we took. But if you don't have any statistics that show us how many of those quarantined during that quarantine period came down with COVID, we have no basis for judging the effectiveness of the methods we used. Of course, I believe that we were very effective, but those statistics would be kind of interesting to know. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. As you can see, I don't know how Marcia has time to sleep as much as she does to keep everything on track. So the next part of our COVID-19 response to the pandemic, Ms. Kim Bray is going to present some numbers and data for us, and then we will move to Mr. Scott Hall. So Ms. Bray, I'll turn it over to you for our numbers.
Okay, mine is actually pretty brief. I just wanted to give you the total number of days. As far as FFCRA days, these were days from the beginning of school until December 31st, when that act expired. We had 1,747.5 days that people actually turned in a form for FFCRA pay. Then when you decided that we would extend that under our COVID-19 Cumberland County policy, there's been a total of 361 days. And then as far as the extended COVID leave, where people had already utilized their first 10 days, we have 11 employees that have now applied for extended COVID leave for a total of 56.5 days. Should you decide to approve that, at this point, the cost to the district would be $8,571, and that includes taxes and TCRS. And this is all data that I gleaned simply from the form that they were required to fill out and that I have on file. So if they didn't apply for it, I have no way of knowing the circumstance. Then the next slide
Thank
is
you.
just something that the state, excuse me?
I said, thank you. Those are very, very important data to understand and know.
Our next slide is just something that the state is now providing. This is just basically, now this is nothing but a hotline for people. This is for, not just for educators, for first responders, people that work in healthcare. This is just basically a hotline that's available to them if they just, we don't want to talk to somebody, having a bad day, stressing out. These are not healthcare professionals, but these are trained volunteers that answer this hotline, and it's free to anyone that would like to utilize it. Don't really have any numbers as far as utilization, but this has been sent out to all of our employees multiple times through the insurance portion, so it is available to them. And that's really basically all I had for you guys. So if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Ray. On our agenda, we had put down that we were going to discuss some possible changes, increases with substitute teacher pay. If it would please the board, if we could discuss that next time. Mr. Hull is scheduled to present today, and I would like to be able to give him the opportunity to share some very important information regarding mental health for you. So we have with us now Mr. Scott Hull. He is our lead Safe Schools counselor, and he and his team provide very important support and training to our students and staff. And so I will turn it over to him and let him share his information with us.
Thank you, Dr. Maxwell. Hello, everybody at home. Hope everybody's staying warm during the recent cold spell we've had. Thank you for having me. We just heard a really good presentation from Nurse Polson. Gave us some really good numbers, and those are very tangible and concrete numbers, and they're easily recorded, and we know how they come about getting that data. Basically, someone goes in, they get tested, they're either positive or negative, and based upon that result, if they're positive, they go into a database. Then we're able to monitor the severity of the symptoms, whether they have symptoms or not, and the duration of the illness. And those go into a database, and then Nurse Polson is able to give us a concrete and clear picture of our current situation with COVID-19. And she did a wonderful job doing that. As far as mental health is concerned, the information gathering with mental health is not quite as straightforward as it is with just basic information about COVID. The gathering of the data, there also can be a delay with the gathering of the data with mental health, and it's more difficult sometimes to ascribe cause and effect with mental health. So what we eventually know, there's usually a little bit of a delay on that. But there has been some research done, and there's things that we do know as far as our mental health response related to the pandemic, and there's things that we think we know, and then there's things that we will eventually know. So in looking at the information, anytime there is a major event that affects a lot of people, like a mass event, such as a 9/11, a Katrina, or the current pandemic, there is usually the event, and then there's a little bit of a lag in our mental health response to that event. And then oftentimes when the event is over, the mental health response continues, sometimes for even years. For example, in 2015, there was a study on 9/11 focused on the population in New York City and the surrounding areas. And it showed that in that population, if we could stick with the previous slide, please. It showed in that study that 15% of that population met the diagnostic criteria for a major depressive disorder 14 years after 9/11. That's compared to 8% in the general population. 14% of the population in New York City, 14 years later, met the criteria for post-traumatic stress disorder. That's compared to 5% in the general population. So 14 years after 9/11, we were still feeling some of the mental health consequences because of that event. So there's usually a lag, just like you're seeing a picture of a lake right now. If we had just had 2 months of the weather we've had this week, 2 months of that weather, and suddenly today is 80 degrees, would it still be safe to go jump in that lake and take a swim? It'd be very cold. So just like there's a lag with the lake water warming up to the temperature of the surrounding atmosphere, there is a lag with our mental health response when we have major events like this. Now, why does that happen? Why do we have a lag with our mental health response? And so to explain that, I'm going to take about 4 minutes of your life that you won't be able to get back and explain to you some basic brain science about how trauma works. And the reason I'm going to do this is because this has great implications for what we're going to be looking at that we're currently dealing with and what we're going to be dealing with going forward. So this is going to greatly simplify brain science. There are some neurosurgeons that would be aghast at this, but it's still basically true. So we're going to be looking at 3 parts of the brain. You got the neocortex, the midbrain, and the brain stem. But you can represent this just with your hand. You can take your thumb and place it in the middle of the palm of your hand and close your fingers around that, and you have a fist. That would represent the 3 parts of the brain. This part right here would be the brain stem. That's what connects to the spinal cord. And it is the oldest part of the brain, and it controls things that are involuntary, things like our heartbeat, our breathing. Inside the brain, taking up as much space as the very tip of my thumb, is a section we refer to either as the midbrain, or we refer to certain parts that make up the midbrain. A lot of people refer to it as the amygdala. That's one of the parts in there. It's also known as the survival part of the brain. And we'll get into what that does in just a moment, because that has great implications for what we're going to be facing from a mental health standpoint during this pandemic, what we are currently facing as a result of this pandemic. The biggest part of the brain, the whole entire fist, compared to the little section of the thumb, is the neocortex. And it is larger in humans than it is in any other species. And it is basically the part of the brain that makes us human. It allows you to form thoughts. It allows you to understand what I'm saying while at the same time thinking about what you're going to be having for lunch. It allows you to work math problems. It allows you to understand jokes. It basically is what makes us human, and it's mostly what is running the show almost all the time. We're not even really aware so much of that survival part of our brain. The survival part of the brain kicks in when we're in danger. So like if you were in the street and someone was speeding and you realized at the last second that you were about to be hit by a car, what would happen is that survival part of the brain that we hardly ever hear of, and it's not very big, it would shut down the entire neocortex. Shut it completely down. Because when you're about to be hit by a car, you don't need to be thinking, which way should I jump? What should I do? You don't need to be thinking. The survival part of the brain shuts down the neocortex, floods your body with adrenaline, activates your sympathetic nervous system, and allows you to jump out of the way of the car. You've probably heard people say, well, I did it without thinking. A lot of times that's because of the survival part of the brain kicking in. And in that survival part of the brain, there are no thoughts. There's no language. You can't think your way out of things that happen in the survival part of the brain. So you jump out of the way of the car, and then the survival part of the brain accents the parasympathetic nervous system to return you back to normal, and it clicks back on the neocortex, and you go about your day. That energy has been expended, and it shouldn't cause you any problems going forward. Traditionally, that's how it's supposed to work, and that is put there as a mechanism to keep us safe. And we really relied upon that back during cave-in times when perhaps our life was threatened every day. But normally, we don't pay so much attention to the survival part of the brain. But it only stores, there's no language in there. The only thing that the survival part of the brain stores is it stores sensory input, the things that you hear, smell, taste, feel. All our five senses is what is stored, and that sensory input is connected to various emotions. That's why sensory input can be a powerful memory stimulator. You may smell an odor that could take you back to 20 years ago that you smelled when you were in a traumatic situation, and it can trigger you. So, as far as mental health is concerned, if someone is in a traumatic situation that they can't get out of, a very severe event like a combat event or a sexual assault, a lot of times during those events, the sensory input gets stuck in the midbrain, in the survival part of the brain, and we carry it around even after the event is over. And oftentimes, innocent things in society will trigger that. So when the midbrain is aroused, when we're aroused to try to get us out of danger, it's kind of like this bottle of Coke. Yes, I brought props to this presentation, and I spared no expense. So, but when the midbrain is triggered, it's kind of like inside we get shook up, and you see what happens to that Coke. It gets shook up. Now, and you would imagine an example would be like a soldier in Vietnam. Every day on certain tours of duty, they would have to worry about, is this the day that I'm going to get up and step on a landmine, or is this the day that the sniper is going to shoot me? So in the back of their mind, their life is under threat every single day. So there's always a little bit of this low-level shaking going on inside them. Now, a lot of vets, when they come back home, this Coke bottle has a chance to settle back down and it becomes a normal Coke again. But when a lot of that sensory input gets stuck in the midbrain and it's still there, we haven't gotten rid of it. Society, typical things in society, innocent things, can trigger it again. Like the vet that comes home and things are going well for a little while, and then suddenly their neighbor, for some reason, starts shooting off fireworks for something. That can trigger them just enough that they're back in Vietnam, even though Vietnam may have been over 10 years. So whenever we go through events like this, and the COVID pandemic in some ways may have a little bit in common with a continual combat tour of duty, in the fact that it's an everyday thing. It's a stress that is just in the background with every single one of us. And so all of us are probably a little bit, that survival part of our brain is always just a little bit shaking our Coke up. And even when this pandemic is over, and it will be over, we will still be feeling the effects of this years into the future from a mental health standpoint because of this mechanism that I just told you. And when we have trauma symptoms, sometimes as a result of that, we try to do things to compensate for that. That can lead to anxiety disorders, depression, and it can be very complicated. But I tell you all that because these are the things that we are all potentially going to have to be dealing with in our population as we go forward. So, next slide, please. Sometimes with mental health, there's a tendency to think of it as out of sight, out of mind. When we first were in lockdown in March and kids were home, we didn't get very many counseling referrals for the first month or so. So there would be the tendency to think, well, they're doing okay because they're out of school, the stress of school's not there, they're doing well. But out of sight, out of mind does not mean out of existence. And so that has been one of our challenges. But getting back to the research, there are things that we would have been able to predict before we even got the research in. And the fact that COVID impacts so much of our lives, almost every facet of our life, we have to think about COVID in some way. The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you like this on a computer is just one way that it has interfered with our lives. But some of these big things that it's done, a lot of us live with the illness. And I saw a very sobering statistic just last night that said that 1 in 680 Americans have died of COVID. I mean, we've already lost more people to COVID than we've lost through the entirety of World War II. So having the illness or the fear of getting the illness can really do a number on any of us. The social isolation that has come from it, the economic insecurity that it's caused, the loss of loved ones. And if you lose a loved one during the time of COVID, oftentimes those folks are isolated in a hospital and you can't visit with them. And if they're lucky, perhaps, there's a doctor or a nurse there with them. And another thing that COVID has costed us is the disruption of our routine. And our routines are those things that tell us that the world is a normal place, that it's safe, that there's certain things we can always count on. And when we lose that routine, whether it's the loss of a job or not being able to attend a job or kids not being able to attend school or have that social reinforcement from their peers, all those things we knew even before the pandemic could be a driver of exacerbating mental distress. And the research has proven this to be the case. We know this, and the research has confirmed this. But there have also been some surprises that the research has told us up to this point. Next slide, please. So, some of the research surprises. Number one is the wide extent of mental distress. It's even wider than we thought that it would be. There was a CDC study last year that estimated 1 in 4 adults exhibit anxiety or depression symptoms compared to 1 in 10 of those adults in June of 2019. And of course, the widespread, some of us are more potentially susceptible to that than others. And some of the populations that are more susceptible to that would be those that already have mental health conditions, low-income individuals, people of color, those close to someone who have had COVID that has died, and even those that have been diagnosed with COVID. A recent study has shown that 18% of those individuals that were diagnosed with COVID were later diagnosed with a mental health disorder. And so that is something that is still ongoing. That's a statistic that is continuing to evolve even as we speak. So the research is continuing. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Thank you. So there's also a Johns Hopkins study, and they defined serious psychological distress, and they found that it's tripled since 2018. So there's a very widespread of mental distress that we weren't quite aware that would happen. And this is more widespread than after Katrina or after 9/11. And keep in mind, this is a very different event than Katrina and 9/11, in the fact that Katrina and 9/11 were kind of isolated events in the fact that they happened and then they were over. Of course, there were consequences to those events, and and fallout, and the people that directly experienced those events continued to have a mental health toll and financial tolls and everything after those events. But those events happened and they were over. With COVID, we're not exactly sure when it began, and we're not exactly sure when it's going to be over. It's a continual low-lying stressor impacting us every day. And with those previous events, when they were over, we were all able to gather together and process that event together. And we were able to comfort each other when we grieved. And so we haven't been able to do this with this pandemic, and that also exacerbates any potential mental health issues that there may be. Another thing that's kind of been a little bit of a surprise is how much the media consumption exacerbates our distress. Obviously, when we're home, the TV's on, and you would think human nature would be, well, this coverage is kind of disturbing me, I'm going to shut it off. But human nature is more, no, I'm going to watch it more in hopes that I can feel a little bit better about it. And especially conflicting coverage also tends to exacerbate mental health distress. Because especially in the early part of the pandemic, we didn't know, the science wasn't in on it. You heard all kinds of different things. You probably remember when we were spraying our groceries and those type of things. So that also has contributed, studies have shown, to exacerbate our mental distress. And the other surprise has been the absolutely big toll that it's had on young adults. Common sense may tell us, okay, perhaps this would be more likely to affect individuals that are more likely to get severely sick when they get infected. Individuals of a certain age or underlying medical conditions, you would expect that from a mental health standpoint, they would suffer a bigger toll. But the research shows that actually it's been with younger adults. What the research hasn't shown yet is exactly why that's the case. A few theories may be. One would be the disruption of their routine. Young people are missing out on a lot of things, whether it's graduation or that first job or a wedding or their senior year of high school. So they're missing out on a lot of things, and the social isolation, they're missing out on a lot of the socialization needs. And that population group needs socialization more than the rest of us. We all need it, but that population especially needs it. So those are some of the surprises. But as for the research, I mean, it's still ongoing. And some of the research is really ambitious. There are researchers that are using huge data sets to compare various countries and municipalities, to compare how the population is responding to governmental policies that have been developed to respond to the coronavirus. And they're comparing, like, like lockdowns and social isolation restrictions, social restrictions, how do those affect various populations? And hopefully, in the future, when we get all of that knowledge, if we ever have another one of these situations, we will be more informed as far as how to address that from a policy standpoint. There's a little bit of preliminary information that's come in from those studies. Like with lockdowns, one study in one country showed that in the early stages of lockdown, mental distress actually decreased. Now that could be because at the time we didn't know a whole lot about COVID. It was very scary. I mean, it's still scary, but maybe being locked down gives people some relief. And I would be interested to see how that study plays out over time as the economic consequences of the lockdown and the social isolation and how that all starts getting mixed in. And we're also interested in how those lockdown measures and other social restrictions, how that may impact different populations. So that's information that we'll be gaining in the future. So I'd like to look at a little bit of particular populations before we move forward. Okay, next slide. There's a few populations that the research has shown have been more high at risk, and that being young adults, as we discussed, individuals with job loss or income loss, children and parents, communities of color, and essential workers. Next slide. The information I'm giving you now are all from like the Kaiser Family Foundation and various surveys. It's documented on the previous slide. But so with young adults, as I mentioned, the toll that this pandemic has enacted on them, 56% of them report anxiety, depression symptoms. They're more likely than adults in general to report increased substance use in order to cope with pandemic stress, 25% for them compared to 13% for adults in general. And they're more likely to have suicidal thoughts in relation to the pandemic, 26% for them versus 11% for adults in general. Next slide, please. Those individuals with job loss or income loss, looking at their households, those households are more likely to experience symptoms of mental illness compared to other households, 53% to 32%. With communities of color, we do know that they have been disproportionately affected during this pandemic, and that is also true from a mental health standpoint. Non-Hispanic Black adults, 48% of them report anxiety and depression symptoms versus 46% for Hispanic or Latino adults, and that compares to the rate for non-Hispanic White adults at 41%. Next slide, please. And with children and parents, we have definite concerns for potential patterns of poor mental health among our children and our parents. And it seems the research shows, especially with mothers of young children, seem to be more affected than others in that group. Women seem to struggle more than men, 49% compared to 40% for men. And looking at each group individually, adolescents, that is a at-risk age group anyway. Among children or adolescents aged 12 to 17, suicide is the second leading cause of death among adolescents, and that was before the pandemic. Also in that age group before the pandemic, ages 12 to 17, 16% of that group would meet the diagnostic criteria for major depressive disorder. So they're already at risk. And we do know them not going to school, perhaps parents under some financial strain, loss of insurance, they have also lost access to mental health services. They have less access to mental health services, adolescents do. One thing we do know that's happened since the pandemic is they have increased their solitary substance use. With children, obviously, there's oftentimes you're at home more, there's a greater chance that there's stress in the home. So we do believe that children have increased exposure to household stress, and we talked about the disruption of their routines and their socialization. It is expected, we don't know this, but it is expected that during the pandemic that the rate of child abuse has increased during the pandemic. We don't know that. What we do know is that the child abuse related ER visits during the pandemic have actually went down. But the severity of those child abuse related ER visits have increased. So right now, we don't have enough research yet to know exactly why that is, but it very well could be that the less serious injuries are just not being reported, and we don't know about them, but the more severe ones are the ones that wind up in the ER. And of course, when we don't have access to our children, we can't pick up on red flags, and so a lot of those reports, potential reports, we miss. Another group at risk are essential workers. They are more likely to report symptoms of anxiety and depressive disorders compared to other workers, 42% to 30%. They are more likely to start or increase substance use in response to pandemic stress, 25% to 11% for other workers. And they are more likely to report suicidal thoughts, 22% to 8% for other workers. So, next slide, please. So that brings us just going forward. We're talking about all these national trends, and it's like COVID-19 is an underlying stressor in all of our lives, children, parents, and their faculty and staff, as we talked about. And they may not be classified that way, but for all intents and purposes, our faculty and staff are essential workers, and they're susceptible to all of these things that we were just talking about. And of course, I was talking about research and statistics, and this group is more likely than that group. But really, you can't judge anyone as far as mental health is concerned until you know the individual. You may take the random adolescent and they may be doing relatively well compared to, you know, whatever their situation may be happening. And then you may take an adult from another population group, and they may be struggling. And just because they may be struggling, it's not a reflection of their character or their intelligence. Just like if you was to catch COVID, it's not a reflection of your intelligence or your character. It can happen to any of us. So I'm going to move very quickly because I know it's about time. It's time to wrap up. So let me go back to that slide just previously, if you don't mind. The local challenges, it's kind of like all of us are kind of like that car driving through the desert. We're all under a lot of stress. The car may be filled with gas and everything's been checked out and it's driving, but the more you drive in the desert under that extreme heat and perhaps bad roads, and when you get in the desert, there's less gas stations, there's hardly any Jiffy Lubes out there. Eventually, that car is going to start developing some problems, and that's kind of what we've all been running on. And the challenge for us is to find ways to provide a little bit of relief along the way. Can we throw up a Jiffy Lube to kind of keep that car, pull it over, check the tires, get it back on the road? So what some of our challenges have been identifying students during the shutdowns, because we don't have access to them. We're missing certain red flags, and that's how usually we get referrals, is a teacher or a staff member will notice a red flag and the referral will come to us. And of course, just a massive need for mental health services. Our biggest challenge, I think, is being in 2 or 3 places at one time. That's been very difficult. And, you know, with the disruptions because of COVID, it makes that even harder. So sometimes I feel like we're not getting to all the students that we need to get to because of the current situation. Those are definitely challenges. And then, like I say, the continued stress on faculty and staff. It's, again, like running the car in the desert. And, you know, our faculty and staff have been doing amazing things this year. You don't even have to mention, you know, with teachers, not only are they teaching their children, but they also have to make sure the children are keeping their PPE in order and making sure that they're obeying coronavirus protocols. Meanwhile, they may be having to deal with a parent that is also under a lot of stress. And when all of us are under stress, none of us are at our best. And they're also teaching virtual school and working out all the bugs and kinks associated with that, and sometimes doing all that at the same time. And that's not to mention our principals. You know, we've been asking them to do a whole lot this year, and they've been doing amazing work. I think Dr. Maxwell compared it in the previous conversation to, it's kind of like trying to deal with a moving target in the fact, and that's no one's fault. It's just because, you know, conditions of the pandemic's change, so we have to change. And one of the strengths of our school system is we've been able to do that. Next slide, please. So in looking at the strengths to meet that challenge, again, it was faculty and staff. We have wonderful people here. You know, Nurse Polson and her staff have been doing a wonderful job keeping us safe. And as far as like the Safe Schools program, I think Bo Magnusson's going to be giving you details on our department next week. I just want to mention one thing I think is a strength of our program is it's designed to be flexible. We don't get locked into, well, we have to do this, and then there's so much bureaucracy we can't change to that. So we have been very flexible in the way the program has been designed. Our main focus is to be able to respond to emergencies and urgent situations, but we've been able to adapt to when children were home, we're able to do virtual counseling. And that's different than doing virtual learning, because with virtual counseling, you have to put protocols in place to make sure that you're doing it safely and that you're doing it ethically. And so that takes time to get those forms together and make sure you're doing it legally. So you have to take time to be able to put all those things in place, but we've adapted and we're able to do that now also to help meet the need that we're under. And I think the main thing is just making a determination to remain vigilant. And I think that we're doing that. And we know that after all this is over, just like that lake, at the end of summer, the air may be cooler, but the lake's still going to be warm. So when we get through this pandemic, we still know that we're still going to have some mental health challenges ahead of us. And, you know, as far as getting through the pandemic, I definitely believe we're going to do that. The thing about COVID and why it is so difficult from a psychological standpoint is the unknown. when someone gets sick. We don't know what kind of symptoms they're gonna have. We don't know the progression of it. And we always know, you know, the movie that doesn't show the monster is always scarier than the one that does. But hopefully, if we remain vigilant, it seems like there's a lot of good things at the end of the road that can point to us succeeding. If I could use a football analogy, you know, maybe we're in the third quarter of getting through the pandemic, hoping. But, you know, as long as we don't take our foot off the accelerator. But, so I just want to wrap up with just mentioning a few things. We've talked to staff about this, I talked to students about this, and it's just a few little personal things to keep in mind to just get through the day-to-day of all this. Because that's how we're going to get through this, is just getting into a mentality of we're going to take it one day at a time. And we're going to do what we can do today based upon the evidence that we have. Tomorrow we may have new evidence that we may have to change something, and we're going to be willing to do that. But I think one of the main things that we can do is keep in mind what we can control and what we can't control. And put all our energy into what we can control. And what we can control are usually things associated with us, the things that we do, the things we say, how we respond. Those are things that we can control. The things we can't control are usually what other people say and what other people do and how they respond. And so if we focus on what we can control, we won't be wasting our energy on something that we can't. We'll be more productive. And then trying to use evidence and to stay informed to make sure that we guide our decisions based upon that. And then just basic common sense things like making sure that we take care of ourselves, we get enough sleep, we're eating right, we work in some exercise in there. All those things will help keep our car on the road during this pandemic, because we still got quite a bit of driving to do. And so we need to make sure that we do the things each day, take it one day at a time. And I think that's what's going to get us through this. So I appreciate your all's time, and I appreciate all that you have done for us in the program and how you all have valued mental health, because I realize we're in a position that other counties are not in. And that starts with you guys recognizing that need, and I'm very thankful and humbled to be able to do this job. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, that's fine. I know we're near the end. If you think of questions later, you're welcome to call me, email me anytime. I think that's it.
Scott, thank you so much. You all can see what a valuable resource we have with Scott and the people that work with him. I love his football analogy. I will say this, hopefully there is no overtime in this football game, okay? I hope we're in there. Please expand on that.
I just want to say to people, I'm a lifelong Atlanta Falcons fan, and I don't say that to get pity, but if you have it, I'll take it. But I think what we don't want to do is become the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. In 2016, they had a really good team, and they went all the way to the Super Bowl. And they played the legendary New England Patriots, Tom Brady at quarterback, Bill Belichick at coach, and they played in that game, and they were winning. And mopping the floor with the Patriots. It wasn't even close. In the third quarter, they were up 28-3. No team in Super Bowl history had ever come back from a deficit like that. Now, if you know anything about football, you know how that game ended. The Falcons the Patriots tied the game, and they won it in overtime because the Falcons took their foot off the accelerator. So I think we have a path to victory with this pandemic if we don't become the 2016 Atlanta Falcons. So,
absolutely.
I say that with love in my heart for the team. They're my team.
Well, listen, y'all are part of my team, and you know, I want us to look at it. You know, we have been all saying we're surviving. I want us to move that needle and say, you know, we have moved from surviving to now we are thriving, and you know, make that progress. I do appreciate your patience and your time this morning. If there are things that you would like for me to add to the agenda for next week we will have a review of all of the departments that did not present today, as well as Speaker Cameron Sexton will be with us towards the end of our session next week, along with Senator Bailey. Senator Bailey had an accident, so he was on a horse, and I think he has 2 broken wrists now. But with that said, and that was on publicly, so I'm not disclosing his health information.
He posted it.
Okay.
A picture of himself, yeah.
So I can say it. So they will be at the end of our meeting, next Saturday, so do know that they will be joining us, or we will wait to see what Senator Bailey's status is. But they are scheduled to meet with us, towards the end of our meeting on the 27th. Again, the departments that did not present today will be presenting next week. And so I thank you all for your time, and, Scott is very serious. If you have any follow-up questions, or would like to know some ways maybe to help support, friends, family, coworkers, he is more than willing to assist in any way. And I want to thank everyone today that presented, all of the supervisors, for the information, and board members, thank you so much for allowing us to share with you on this board retreat what we do, and we could not do it without you and the support that you give us, and you are very much appreciated. So happy rest of your Saturday.
Thanks, everybody, for being here. We appreciate you. We will, I guess we need to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Got a first and a second?
Second.
All right. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Everybody in favor, say bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all. Thank you again. Appreciate it.